That's so
division. This is actually the first division, and that we saw in 2014. The Carolina Panthers went 7-8-1, made the playoffs. We saw a couple years ago, Tampa Bay Buccaneers went 8-9, made the playoffs. And now we have another Carolina Panthers team finishing 8-9 and making the postseason. There's going to be plenty of talk, and we can have it later on, about whether they should change the playoff structure. Is it fair that an 8-9 division champion gets a home game, and they're going to play at home, either the LA Rams or the San Francisco 49ers on Saturday or Sunday? We will still wait to see how that shakes out. But it's so perfectly NFC South that the team in this sort of win and in situation, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wins
and they ain't
on Saturday. And they're not in because the Atlanta Falcons, who appeared to have wasted away an entire season, right? They had the team. They had the quarterbacks, plural. They had Raheem Morris with a coaching staff that literally, I talked with Raheem Morris about this, that was built for, they were going to be successful, so they knew that people were going to pluck their defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator to be head coaches. So he was ready to backfill with them, right? This has been a disaster of a season for the Falcons up until the last 3 or 4 weeks. And then they start winning. And maybe it saved Raheem Morris's job, all right? And that's another conversation we can get to. But the Carolina Panthers don't win on Saturday. They missed their opportunity against the New Orleans Saints a couple weeks ago, missed their opportunity against the Seattle Seahawks, missed their opportunity in the rain in Tampa, and yet and still the Panthers are in the playoffs, breaking a drought for almost a decade because the Atlanta Falcons beat the New Orleans Saints.
Like you said, it's such an NFC South thing.
Yeah, if there were a case for relegation, it'd be the NFC South making it.
No question. I mean, hats off to Atlanta, because in the midst of all their trials and tribulations, they finished the season on a 4-game winning streak, and one of those wins came against one of the best teams in the NFC last week on a national stage in the Los Angeles Rams, playing with their backup quarterback. And to your point, JJ, maybe this last 4-game stretch potentially could have saved Raheem Morris's job. We don't know. We have to wait and see. But the way he brought the locker room back together clearly gives him a voter's chance to remain in the building based on how they finished. And one thing I say about Atlanta, I know the fans, this is bittersweet because you look at how you finished the season compared to what the expectations were. If you just happen to beat the Jets or the Miami Dolphins, this win would have catapulted you into the playoffs, guaranteeing a home playoff game. Either one of those games, both games were winnable. Both games you came into potentially as the favorite, and you squandered that away. There's a lot to think about, but I won't go further and more into that because the body is still warm. But hats off to Atlanta for making sure Tampa don't get into the playoffs.
Man, this was a tough way for Tampa to go out, to win a ball game yesterday in the way that they won it, and then had to sit home and watch the Atlanta Falcons pretty much squander their season away. But I'm with you, JJ. This was a waste of a season for the Atlanta Falcons. They had the team, they had the quarterbacks, they revamped their defensive line, guys up front were able to get after the quarterback, but they was not able to finish out games and close out games in those crunch time moments. So I know Raheem Morris, if this was the game that saved his job, he's going to have to do a lot of soul searching and self-scouting and see how they could be better in those moments next year.
You say wasted season for the Atlanta Falcons, and yes, it is that. I say wasted season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after a 6-2 start, an MVP candidate in Baker Mayfield. It all goes wrong down the stretch, and it leaves you wondering not what if, but what's next for this team that only remains in this conversation because of the division they play in, Mac.
And you know the confusing thing about Tampa in that first 8-game stretch where they were 6-2, they weren't healthy. They were playing better football,
and playing better football teams.
Playing better football teams, beating those said teams, not with a full arsenal of healthy contributors. And it seemed like as they got healthier, they started to play bad football, which led to them being in this position where they needed help. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have no one to blame but themselves for them not making the playoffs.
They were 6-2, and we always say, we kind of joke around, oh, the bye week, it comes at a great time because everybody needs to rest up. They had a week 9 bye, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know a lot of teams would love just middle of the season.
Love the week 9.
Right, smack dab in the middle. They were 6-2 before the bye. After the bye, they come out 2-7. I mean, they absolutely squandered their bye. They squandered that great start because they had cushion at 6-2 in the NFC South. You can drop some games. They just couldn't drop one more than they ultimately did.
But, you know, you said something interesting about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They did get healthy, but the two main parts of their team end up getting injured, the offensive line and the quarterback. I believe that's something, and too many splash plays on the defensive side of the ball as well. I believe that's something that hindered them.
We've talked about the head coaching safety of one in this three-way tie situation. How about the head coaching safety there in Tampa Bay? Is Todd Bowles is about a 500 coach. Playoff time, it's a sub-500 record. It feels like there's juice yet to be squeezed, as you like to use that euphemism, Awesome. They haven't squeezed all the juice out of this roster.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. Remember, Todd Bowles did inherit the core of a Super Bowl team, an aging Super Bowl team, but a Super Bowl team nonetheless. He still had Tom Brady for a year. When you look at his overall body of work with Tampa, it is a 500 record. Now, they have gone to the playoffs more times than not, and they almost did just this season, of course, missing out on it. And so you do have to wonder how much of this falls on Todd Bowles, the head coach. They lost 2 offensive coordinators in consecutive years. And so that has to factor into it as well. Josh Grizzard, he may be one and done as OC of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What is going to help Todd Bowles is you have an ownership group that isn't involved in the day-to-day similar to some of the other more involved owners around the league. What I am told is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers ownership group is going to take some time after this season, fully evaluate things, rest on it, and then make a decision. But what I will also say is Todd Bowles signed a 3-year contract extension this past offseason. He's good through 2028. And in talking with folks around the league, there are people who love Todd Bowles as a coach and as a defensive mind. So maybe there's going to be a ton of staff changes, and that keeps Todd Bowles there. But obviously some change is going to have to come to Tampa.
I don't think Tampa should consider moving on from Todd Bowles. Granted, this was a letdown of a season, but he's a really, really good coach. He has the locker room. The organization respects him. I think more so about Todd Bowles is maybe, delegating the defensive play calling to someone else, where he can kind of really oversee everything as a head coach to make sure he understands what's going on in every element of his football team, because, he's been calling plays since becoming the head coach when B.A. left. And granted, this year, their defense was not at their best.
Monday looms large for some, but a fun Sunday for Carolina on the couch as they are winners in the NFC South. 8-9, sub-500, and now headed to the playoffs. Not just headed to the playoffs, but going to host a playoff game. Appropriately, the first to do so since the Buccaneers.